So it didn't start with the idea of making products. It started with the idea of how can we improve well-being for the people that we're connecting with.
From Detroit's new center, this is your Daily Detroit for Friday, May 10th, 2019. I'm Sven Gustafson. Silent Jer is behind the knobs, twiddling away on today's episode. We're here today to take a look at a company that's making high-end, handcrafted leather goods right here in Detroit, and its name isn't Shinola. Pingree Detroit is making leather shoes, handbags, and other goods right here in the city. They're putting Detroiters and veterans to work with an unconventional business model that prioritizes equity and sustainability. We speak with co-founder and CEO, Jarret Schlaff. But first, Daily Detroit is brought to you in part thanks to the support of our listeners. If you like what you hear from us each and every day, there's no greater way to support us than by becoming a Patreon member. For as little as $1 a month, you can help ensure that we keep pushing great podcasts that push Detroit's conversation forward. Visit patreon.com/Daily Detroit.
I often like to start here. This is actually the very first concept that we started with. So when we were looking at, okay, we want to make shoes. We haven't done it in Detroit since the 50s. What can it look like? What the silhouette look like? And so literally a duct tape pattern is where we started. And from there, we made our first prototype in 2015 in a basement of Detroit. We had a bunch of equipment that was donated to us from Lear, and we had it in a couple different basements, in a church basement downtown at Central United Methodist Church, and we were in stuff at my house on the east side of Detroit. And we were like, okay, well, if we're gonna make something, what kind of represents this resilience, kind of urban utility, something's gonna last a really long time that we can hand make here in the city. And so this kind of led to almost 4 years later, the sneakers that just went live in October.
Yeah.
And so
These are called the Mayor,
the
right?
Mayors, yes, named after Hazen S. Pingree, who was a veteran. He was a shoemaker. He was a 3-term mayor of Detroit and was the 24th governor of Michigan. Yeah. And so he kind of, to us, embodies this idea of what does service look like when you put the well-being of the people first in every aspect you can. Mm-hmm. So it looked like fighting political corruption, corporate corruption, breaking up monopolies, opening up all this land for folks to grow food on when there's a famine, just kind of cooperative, collective saying, let's actually put the people first for a change. And so
I understand that there's red shoelaces and kind of a red pull tab on the heel. Yes. That's intentional, I understand, right?
It is. So it's two different aspects. So there's one, the fact that the majority of the men and women on our team are veterans and those who have served, coupled with the fact that so this kind of honors and pays homage to the service and sacrifice of the men and women who serve every single day, as well as back in 1887, I think, Hazen S. Pingree's shoe factory, because he was a shoemaker way back in the day. It was almost burning to the ground, and firemen saved his factory. And so he had this whole line of shoes with a red accent as a way to pay homage to the firefighters. And so although that company went out of business before he even became governor, we really were inspired to kind of lift up that exciting element, as well as let people know that that we really honor our folks that serve and keep our country safe. So the Mayor launched in October. Just yesterday, we shipped our 100th pair out to a customer. So awesome. We it's been a long journey. It took us 4 years. We're a small team of 8, and we're a worker-owned company, which means 77 cents of every dollar in profit is shared with all the workers. We have the basement, we'll call it a shoemaking studio. Just watch your head coming down.
A lot of people would see Pingree Detroit. You're making, frankly, kind of high-end shoes, leather products, handbags, clutch purses, things like that, and maybe mistake you for the other brand that's just a block away from here, Shinola, right? But you guys are quite different in terms of your business model. Can you explain that a little bit? Because you guys have a very unusual kind of business structure.
Sure. Yeah, so we kind of see ourselves as very community-rooted and worker-owned. So the quality of the products we see is as competitive with any other folks who are making bags and footwear in the market. What makes us unique is that It's the materials, it's the people, and it's the process. So the materials we use are all, it's brand new leather that was being used in the production of new car seats and steering wheels by the Detroit auto industry. And there's leftover leather in the process. Perfectly good, way too nice to be shipped over to China or landfilled. And so we've developed a relationship with them to insert ourselves into their kind of production process, get those remnant pieces, some is bought, some is donated, and actually we use that to make, our shoes, to make our bags, to make our clutches, to make the totes, to make the wallets. And the folks who actually make them are native Detroiters, lifelong Detroiters, new Detroiters, and U.S. veterans. So our core focus is creating living wage work, teaching skilled trades, and creating support systems wrap around for men and women who are especially underserved and are overcoming a lot of adversity. And we are now a worker-owned company. So that means 77 cents of every dollar is shared with the workers on our team.
Interesting. And you're a small team here, right? Like how many workers do you have now?
We are a team of 8, so we do a lot with a little. We wear many shoes, one could say, and 4 of us are full-time, 4 are part-time. And so it's kind of a find a way, create the way, and we're working towards both improving our processes so we can be more kind of imagine a traditional factory model, but that also maximizes well-being. So the more people we can bring on and bring more equipment on, then we'll be able to improve how quickly we can make things. Right now, it's very bespoke, it's very handmade, but it's extremely therapeutic to work with your hands and make something that's intention on every step, that you're putting the quality of craftsmanship in every stitch. Yeah. And it's going to last a lifetime, and it's handmade. Like the footwear is almost exclusively made by U.S. veterans on our team.
Lasts a lifetime. How so? I've never heard of shoes last a lifetime.
Yeah, so the beauty is when your sole wears out, on your shoe, let me be clear, you can bring it back to us, send it back to us. We'll even ship you a box, and we resole that. So the uppers they're made to be in car seats that are meant to last decades. Those are on your feet. They get snug to your foot. It breaks in beautifully, and then we can just keep resoling it. We can patch it if we need to. It'll have some character 30 years from now, but you've still got a Detroit-made product that's going to last. We're designing products also to be kind of circular in the economy. So we want things to be closed loop in the cycle. We want to be completely waste-free, toxic-free, and carbon negative in the next 5 years.
Your company, Pingree Detroit, is a few years old now. Talk to us about how you started this company. I mean, what happened? Where'd you get the idea to do this kind of unusual business model and everything?
Sure. So it didn't start with the idea of making products. It started with the idea of how can we improve well-being for the people that we're connecting with. So in the same week, back in the fall of 2014, I met a young man who was squatting in my neighborhood in the Charlevoix Villages community on the east side. I'm lucky enough to know a lot of folks in the neighborhood, the elders. When we have potlucks, someone brings the elders a plate. Like everyone just knows each other, and it's amazing. And there was this young man going in and out of the house, squatting. I went and talked to him, brought him a case of water and some stuff to make PBJs.
Like an abandoned home or something?
Abandoned house, yeah. And I was like, hey man, how you doing? Like, what do you need? And he's like, he let me know. He's like, I'm surviving. I'm trying to find work. And he turned out he was a veteran. He'd been home less than 6 months.
And what was his story? Like, had he been deployed overseas or something?
Yeah, he was home from Afghanistan. His name is Ryan. He was about my age, a couple years older. He had found work as a security guard. He couldn't find stable employment. He was living with his brother, his only family locally. And then his brother's wife kicked him out of the house because he kept waking her up at night. It's a story that made me extremely pissed off. And it didn't fit with my model of what I thought was reality. So I'd done work for Senator Carl Levin doing Veterans Affairs work, supporting veterans with their benefits. I was aware of the VA support systems, and there's a lot of robust support systems, but there's tons of gaps. And I wasn't as aware of those gaps as I thought I was. And so me and this guy who was just trying to find an opportunity, he was fine surviving. He was surviving no problem in the house, but he couldn't find an opportunity. And so that was kind of this, I literally gave him the $10 I had in my wallet, gave him my phone number, said, I'm going to find a way to get you connected with some resources, follow up with me, and we did. But then that same week, I met another veteran who was also homeless, going door to door trying to find work.
Wow.
This guy had a master's in engineering, was working through some addiction and was working through a lot of trauma, also had served overseas, couldn't find an opportunity. This guy, Michael, amazing human being, I said out loud to him, this is unacceptable. Someone should do something about this. And I said that out loud, just like I said the same night to my buddy Joe, we need to do something about this. And so that day, this was kind of this moment of something's got to give. Like, this doesn't work. And so to explore what is the need, what can we create, what do we need to do something about this? And so we actually employed Michael. It was the first thing. I was working full time at the time, doing work across the Midwest in leadership development. And so we actually employed Michael to do a listening campaign where he actually went and sat down with veterans nonprofits, veteran shelters, veterans who do a lot of work in the advocacy realm to see, like, what are the needs? Yeah. What are the gaps? What are the problems? And what do veterans say they need? And so we identified that there's this gap between the provision of basic needs and living wage work.
And what did he find out specifically about why veterans have such a hard time finding work?
There's a lot of different things. There's one that at times folks have a difficulty matching skills that they maybe had overseas, matching it with like civilian employment. There's a fact that a lot of jobs are this monotonous lack of meaning, just do what you're told and fit in. And it's like, if you've seen the world pull back and you know what's really going on, it's kind of hard to just fit in and just live in a monotonous, no meaning life when you've lived alongside people who would give their life to make sure you have yours. So to go from a purpose-driven, structured environment to just free-for-all, I'm going to step on your toes, I'm going to push you down so I can get up, it's such a challenge. I would invite the audience to know that I would say veterans speak best for themselves, and I'm known to say, like, I know what veterans need, but I've had a lot of veterans tell me that there's been a challenge finding meaningful work. And that there's such an opportunity. Some of these men and women have such capacity to lead and to be a part of team-driven environments, and they have such opportunities to give. And it's been a mix of having those opportunities presented to them, having just access to know that they exist, and then the support systems along the way to make sure that they don't fall between the cracks. So that if they have a support system, that it's okay to let someone know you could use some support. And to make those easily accessible and connect veterans to support other veterans. Yeah. So those are some of the few. And then you got to have stable housing. If you need a job, you've got to have just some of those core basics figured out. And a lot of times even the basics aren't figured out.
How is business going? Is Pingree Detroit profitable yet? Are you inching closer to that?
So we had our first profitable month in December. We're still losing quite a bit of money on a day-to-day. We're an L3C. We're a social impact company, which means our primary focus is mission coupled with being profitable. But we're definitely surviving on loans and donations, and sales are slowly picking up. That's the 100th pair of sneakers. The people are really moved by the story, the impact. We're not in front of enough people yet. We're still trying to tell our story and doing it the bootstrapped way. So I still don't pay myself. I bartend on Wednesdays to pay myself. My other co-owner doesn't pay himself yet. So it's the people who need to be working are working right now. But it's a matter of how can we strategically get in front of more folks, let them know what we're up to, and also telling the story in an empowering way. So we don't necessarily lift up the homelessness piece as much anymore because we want to make sure it's empowering to the team and the members that are working through, and they're in a very different situation they might have been in the past.
So let's talk about that, the business designation, the L3C. How does that differ from being a conventional company that's more focused on traditional profits and losses and things like that? I mean, does it add challenges for you?
Of course, yeah. So an L3C means that we're a social impact company. So our main purpose for existing is to fulfill the social mission, which involves maximizing well-being, supporting veterans in Detroit on our team, and we're actually a worker-owned company. And so coupled with, yes, to be profitable, to stay afloat, to stay as a business, we have to make money and we have to be profitable, but it's a low profit. And so as an L3C, the challenges are doing things to where we're not only looking how can we maximize profit, we're saying how can we maximize well-being? Okay, it's not treating people like machines. We sponsor float tank therapy for the veterans on our team where they're going and they're working on their own mental health. And we, have an hour paid lunch, and we do yoga and meditation, and we do leadership development. It's all around how can we actually create a support system for the men and women on our team. And then there's the piece around, so the veterans on our team once a month go to a veteran shelter 1 block away from us and support the veterans there. We do leather workshops. Sometimes it's a pizza party that they show up for. We'll make keychains, we'll make goods. For the first hour, they make something for themselves, where the veterans in our team are doing that give back to the veterans there. And then the second hour, we actually pay them living wage to make something for us. And so we've actually hired veterans directly from that shelter to work with us. And within 1 year, they become a worker owner of our company. So that means you're literally and figuratively being a part of our success. You're owning the things you're making, and you're a part of our innovation. So if anything you can see as a way to make something better, to do it better, to be more community focused, they have that agency and literal ownership to be a part of making that happen.
I saw that you have personally taken part in like Goldman Sachs training, business development training. So, I mean, I'm just curious, do you hear pressure from people who say maybe like, hey, I'd love to invest in your company, but I would do it only if you switched your business model? I mean, do you hear those kinds of things? Like,
for sure. We've probably gotten 50 no's from people from an investment side of things because either we're too risky, we don't give them enough profit, or they want us to look more at maximizing profitability and not so much the social mission. Like, well, the story's great if you sell some stuff. And so those aren't people we want to partner with anyways. We want to partner with folks who share our mission, share our vision for creating community level resilience. And so from an investment standpoint, from a Goldman Sachs perspective, those were conversations around how can we be as strategic as we can from a business perspective, making the best quality products, having the best interactions with customers, with partners we work with creating a kind of a whole system that's designed around maximizing well-being. And so that training just helped me think a little bit differently from a business perspective, because all my background's in the nonprofit world. But there's a very different thing when you're producing a product to an end user versus producing a service for a certain audience.
how are you selling your products? Is it all strictly through the website, or are you in like retail stores?
Yes. So right now in Detroit, we're in the Good Neighbor shop downtown. We're in Simplified Clothing Eastern Market. And we're also, if you ever go to my favorite coffee shop, Bottom Line Coffee, we have our wallets there. It's a Black-owned, Muslim-owned business in what would be the Cass Corridor area. Mm-hmm. And then we're in a few stores in Port Huron and Grand Rapids. So we're kind of in different areas across Michigan, 9 stores in total. We're also in the Somerset collection at the Detroit shop. We're there, but mostly we're online. So we're online at, Pingree Detroit, PingreeDetroit.com. And then we're also at Eastern Market every Saturday.
Mm-hmm. I understand that you guys have established some sales goals and everything for this year. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the biggest thing is we have a lot of men and women who want to work who we don't yet have demand for to bring on and employ. So the goals look like being profitable. Like we have our loans have gotten from where they were, we have a very small amount of cash to work with. So really being efficient in our processes. We want to be able to hire 5 more people in the next year to do a variety of different elements. I can't share it now, but there's some really exciting things when it comes to some of the footwear advancements we want to be participating in, and some other kind of collaborations that we're looking at. So that's kind of some of the growth goals, is like growth and impacts, growth in product offerings. So people have been waiting for the governor shoes for a long time. We're really excited to unveil those. We're really excited to offer some other products people have been waiting for. And then it looks like just bringing in the money that's necessary to sustain the current team and to grow that team.
What's your pitch to somebody who says, wow, these are nice shoes, but they're expensive? I mean, the Mayor shoes I think are over $300, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, why are they worth it? I guess
there's 2 pieces to it. The one is, if the next time you bought a pair of sneakers, you were buying those that would look really good and last for the next 15 years, what would those be worth? If you could resole your sneakers. And then the fact that you knew that they were handmade by hands of U.S. veterans or Detroiters, and that the leather was also supporting the Detroit auto industry. So those 3 elements, coupled with the fact that like 65% of the cost is just labor. So that you're paying a living wage, someone's making $13 to $20 an hour handcrafting these products. Then the majority of all the hardware is American made. So you're supporting the rivets and the eyelets. You're coming from Louisiana. We've got the shoelaces are coming from Brooklyn, New York. The leather is Detroit. Like all the aspects are all done with a lot of intentionality. So you're not just buying an expensive pair that's marked up. It's actually direct to customer. We don't currently have the retail locations for sneakers because right now it's pretty much the cost to make it, and then there's a small margin on top.
Jarret and I know a little bit about the struggles of trying to launch, your own business and get it to fly and everything. I mean, you're describing, it's difficult. You're not drawing a paycheck. You're bartending once a week and everything. But I mean, are you optimistic that you're in it for the long haul and you feel good about this?
100%. Every day I start off the day visioning what we're going to create and what the impact is that we're able to create. So I'm 100% optimistic. I believe in my entire being that what we're able to accomplish is going to be hundreds of jobs across the country, but starting in Detroit, Michigan, that are living wage jobs that are worker-owned, which means that equity is the core of what we do, that well-being is maximized in all fronts, that we're going to be able to not only produce things that are a little bit of a more accessible price point as we grow and have more equipment and have more scale, but that we also are producing things that people need, that are sustainable, that have a closed-loop cycle so that we don't have to throw stuff away, wears away, right? We create things that last, that are made with care, that are supporting people like Nate and other makers on our team so that we can all together thrive and we can create together a Detroit that actually works for Detroiters, that makes our neighborhood stronger, and that actually maximizes well-being.
All right, friends, that's going to do it for today's episode. You can learn more about Pingree Detroit at pingreedetroit.com. As always, thanks so much for listening to Daily Detroit. For Jarret Schlaff, I'm Sven Gustafson. Until next time, take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.